Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have asked to speak with you regarding a very important matter, and that very important matter is in regards to the ways in which we train and educate our soldiers, or, more accurately, how we can continue to improve the ways in which we train and educate our soldiers. In 2010, the Commanding General of the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command mandated that the Army undergo a major change in the way soldiers are educated and trained. In order to learn faster and better than our future adversaries, he said, we must improve our learning model by leveraging technology without sacrificing standards so we can provide credible, rigorous, and relevant training and education for our force of combat-seasoned soldiers and leaders. The U.S. Army Learning Model for 2015, or ALM 2015, was born. The main tenets of ALM 2015 are to convert most classroom experiences into collaborative problem-solving events led by facilitators, vice instructors, who engage learners to think and understand the relevance and context of what they learn, to tailor learning to the individual learner's experience and competence level based on the results of a pre-test and/or assessment, and to dramatically reduce or eliminate instructor-led slide presentation lectures and begin using a blended learning approach that incorporates virtual and constructive simulations, gaming technology, or other technology-delivered instruction. The Army Learning Model for 2015 mandates learner-centric, technology-enhanced training and education that gets soldiers away from brick-and-mortar institutional training. As the U.S. Army continues to change the way it trains and educates soldiers and leaders, new techniques and methodologies are being tried. Blended learning combines face-to-face classroom methods with technology-delivered instruction that can be delivered either in a resident or non-resident environment to form an integrated instructional approach. Most definitions of blended learning follow the concept that it is a blended solution between e-learning, online or click, and classroom learning, face-to-face or brick. The concept of blended learning first appeared in scholarly literature in 1910 when The New Era in Education, a study of the psychology of correspondence methods of instruction, was delivered at the dedication of the instruction building of the International Correspondence Schools in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Technology-enhanced instruction was further developed in the 1950s with the use of radio and television in instruction. The first use of the term blended learning occurred in 1999 when Interactive Learning Centers announced a name change to Epic Learning. The article reads in part, "The company currently operates 220 online courses, but will begin offering its internet courseware using the company's blended learning methodology." The 1970s brought further use of blended learning resources, such as the development and use of computer-based instruction. The era of the internet has brought us ubiquitous learning opportunities with mobile learning, distance learning, and synchronous and asynchronous learning. The innovation decision process is the process through which an individual or other decision-making unit passes from first knowledge of an innovation to the formation of an attitude toward the innovation, to a decision to adopt or reject, to implementation and use of the new idea, and to confirmation of this decision. This timeline highlights the innovation decision of blended learning in the U.S. Army. A communication channel is the means by which messages get from one individual to another. Some communication channels used in the diffusion of blended learning in Army training institutions is Army Knowledge Online, the web-based central portal for all Army information services. Other communication channels include the weekly and monthly working groups conducted at training institutions across the Army. The Army Learning Model for 2015 is directed by high-level Army leadership. Therefore, there is a high level of emphasis on its implementation. Civilian classrooms are other places to look at the success of blended learning. The rate of adoption is defined as the relative speed with which an innovation is adopted by members of a social system. This S-shaped curve represents the adoption of blended learning in U.S. Army learning institutions through the 5 adoption stages. An innovator is described as venturesome. They have an interest in new ideas that may lead them into more cosmopolite social relationships. Cosmopoliteness is the degree to which an individual is oriented outside the social system. Early adopters are a more integrated part of the local social system. Unlike innovators, early adopters are more localite in nature. The early adopter is considered to be the one to check with. A localite is typically oriented inside the social system. Some of the key innovators and early adopters of blended learning are commanders, department chiefs, instructors, training technicians, and instructional systems specialists. Commanders and department chiefs are typically in positions that keep them informed about all policy and procedure changes. They socialize and interact with others that have access to the most current policy and procedure changes. Instructors have the most experience in what works well and not so well, and are the perfect place to start in the innovation process. Training technicians and instructional systems specialists have the technical and educational background necessary to influence those around them. Younger employees also seem to be more accustomed to embracing and using technology. Laggards are described as being the last in the social system to adopt an innovation. The laggard is the most localite of all adopters, and many are near isolates in the system. Older employees seem to be less accustomed to embracing and using technology. Some platform instructors may feel that their livelihoods are threatened with this new approach to training and education. Some strategies that could be used to persuade are to hold information briefs, explain to the doubters that blended learning is in keeping with the tenets of ALM 2015, and explain the possible resource savings of using blended learning. Compatibility is the degree to which an innovation is perceived as consistent with existing values. Trialability is the degree to which an innovation may be experimented with on a limited basis. A combination centralized and decentralized approach would work best for the adoption of blended learning in training institutions. The overall control of decisions would be shared by both administrators and members of the training units. There would, however, be a high degree of local adaptation as training units adapt the blended learning model to their courses. Critical mass is described as that point in which further diffusion becomes self-sustaining. Blended learning in Army training institutions has not yet met critical mass, nor has blended learning met critical mass in academia or industry. Although the concept of blended learning has been around for decades, its application and practice is relatively new. I recommend that the key innovators and early adopters, the commanders, department chiefs, instructors, training technicians, and instructional systems specialists, be targeted for the initial adoption. They are typically in positions that keep them informed about all policy and procedure changes. They socialize and interact with others that have access to the most current policy and procedure changes. There are several roles that the change agent can assume during the innovation process. Not all of the roles are assumed in every innovation. In the case of blended learning in Army training institutions, the need for change has been clearly identified as a major tenet of the Army Learning Model for 2015. The change agent will continue to attend working groups and push for implementation of blended learning into the Institute's courses. A champion is a charismatic individual who throws his or her weight behind an innovation, thus overcoming indifference or resistance that the new idea may provoke. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to conclude my presentation with this final comment. There is a large body of research that finds that blended courses, those that combine face-to-face instruction with online learning and reduce classroom contact hours, have the potential to increase student learning while lowering attrition rates when compared to equivalent fully online courses. As the Commanding General of the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command mandated, the Army must undergo a major change in the way soldiers are educated and trained. Blended learning is one way in which we can improve our learning model by leveraging technology without sacrificing standards.